Right now is probably one of the most interesting time periods to ever be alive. And if you are alive, I'm going to guess you are because you're listening to this video. Maybe you're not. Maybe you've already uploaded into the computer. I don't know. But if you are alive and you're here, this is perhaps one of the coolest periods of history. Now, there are some really cool periods in history. However, we are entering this age of artificial intelligence. And I know a lot of people really hate AI. Understandably so. People are scared about losing their jobs. They're scared about, robot soldiers and all these crazy negative things that can come from this new technology. And it is incredibly disruptive. But one of the realities is it's most likely here to stay. And the sooner that you can adopt and learn how to integrate it into your life and use it, the more likely you're going to be one of those people who ends up coming out ahead in life in terms of success. I'm not saying that in terms of, life satisfaction or anything like that. Maybe artificial intelligence may contribute to that. And this might just end up being a controversial video. I'm not trying to attract any Luddites here or anything like that. Personally, I really love artificial intelligence. I think it is fascinating, and the entire industry behind it and what it's doing and things they're working towards. I have been interested in this topic for years, mostly because of this idea of the singularity, which is an incredibly interesting idea to me. Singularity is essentially this, if you haven't heard of it, it's this theoretical point in time where the speed of technology is advancing at such a rapid rate that humans can no longer comprehend the speed at which it is advancing. A really good book on this was written by Ray Kurzweil, and he published the book, I believe, in the late 90s or early aughties, called The Singularity is Near. He published a second book about 2 or 3 years ago, called The Singularity is Nearer. Both books, very good. However, I loved the first one the most, partially because of his predictions and how accurate a lot of them were. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And second, about how much of a deep, detailed breakdown he went into for explaining his reasoning about his predictions, which I thought was absolutely fascinating. It's a very thick read. It's a long book. It's probably a 700 pager, and it is very sciencey. So if that's the kind of thing you like, you'll probably enjoy it. I'm not usually one to read really dense material. However, I found this topic so interesting I couldn't resist, and I blew through the book in about a week. The idea of the singularity is super fascinating to me, and if there's this really fantastic show that you got to watch called Pantheon, if you find this stuff interesting. Pantheon, and especially the last 3 episodes of Pantheon, you don't need to watch the whole series, even though the whole series is very good, and I would recommend watching the whole series. You could just watch the last 3 episodes to get an idea of what the singularity might look like. It is probably the most realistic depiction I have seen of this event, and I'm sure there's other science fiction media out there that does a really good job of what the singularity might look like. That it's probably in book format. I haven't come across any other TV shows or movies that are really effectively covering this idea, but I know they're out there. I've heard of other people talking about them. Unfortunately, I don't have time to read every single book there is out there, though I would like to, and maybe that might become a reality one day. Maybe we learn how to extend human life, or maybe we end up merging with computers. I know this sounds really crazy because in a way it is, but if you start reading into this stuff, you start to realize, oh, wait, this is the trajectory we might actually be on. Science fiction feels like it's not science fiction anymore. It's starting to become reality. Not everyone is following AI closely. Not everyone is looking at like the new updates and the new things that are coming out. This is a topic that fascinates me. So I am constantly looking at the bleeding edge of what is currently on the horizon and what we might be seeing in the future. And if you are not using artificial intelligence, if you are not in that space and you don't like it, I can understand. And I'm not saying you need to. I'm not trying to tell you to go do that. What I'm basically saying is it is most likely here to stay. And that might be something that we don't have control over. So for better or worse, the actions we take now and in the future may be able to shape the outcome of how artificial intelligence is employed in our lives. But we don't really know how it's all going to unfold. And there's a lot of people that criticize artificial intelligence for being crappy. And in many ways, yeah, it doesn't always deliver the output you need. I find that whenever I use a chatbot, I found that there's so many times where I would get an output I don't want, and it's frustrating. However, I think this still also negates the reality of how impressive this technology already is. And this is the worst it's going to be. You probably heard that line before, so it's starting to sound like a cliche. At any rate, I think it's something interesting to think about, and I might end up making more videos on AI on this channel in the future because I just really like artificial intelligence and I like talking about it. It's interesting to me, like going over human experience in this time period we're in right now. Going back to how this is one of the most interesting time periods we're living in. Being a 90s kid was pretty cool because me and many other people got to experience, what life was like before the internet was big. Like the internet was there, but it wasn't big. Now the internet is critical infrastructure to the daily lives of many human beings. People, their sole source of income can come from the internet. Their companies run on the internet. There's systems and infrastructure that runs on the internet. The internet is used across the world for connection in many different ways, and that connection is contributing to global economies and commerce and so many fascinating things. So to live in this time period we're living in, I'm pretty excited. I'm excited to see how it all unfolds. I know it's not perfect. There's a lot of problems in the world, and I don't really want to get into those because, there's just some things that are just too deep and too difficult to really explain. And especially when it comes to politics, that's not the kind of channel I want to have, nor do I really want to get into that. So I'm probably going to leave that out of the topic of discussions. It becomes too subjective, too controversial, too difficult to manage. And, I believe there are people out there that are better at handling those topics than I am. So I like to take a step back. And the only thing I really like to weigh in on is artificial intelligence in some elements of it, not all. When it comes to AI safety, that is something that is very difficult to talk about, but I also have some interest in it, just not a lot. Anyway, there's the rabbit hole. And this is maybe the first introductory video to doing some more videos on artificial intelligence that you may or may not be interested in. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if it gave you some curiosity to check some things out, if you'd like to learn more about AI, I would definitely recommend Matt Wolf's channel. I love it. He's probably one of the best channels for talking about artificial intelligence that I've come across. And he basically just keeps you up to date on what's bleeding edge and what's happening right now, which is probably one of the most useful pieces of information because it's mostly factual. It's not really biased. I mean, there is always a bias to some degree, but for the most part, Matt keeps it pretty chill, just talking about the facts. And I find that really useful when there is so much opinion-based articles and information on what's happening in the world. Just being able to find out what actually happened or what is actually happening can be a lot more useful for forming your own opinion. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.